Elena Vargas thought she had everything under control until the night she pointed her gun at the city's most feared Mafia boss and realized she was the one being hunted. For 3 weeks, she'd been living a lie, infiltrating Luca Moretti's organization while her sick 7-year-old brother waited at home, counting on her to save his life. But when bullets started flying and Elena found herself fighting side by side with the man she was supposed to arrest, everything she believed about right and wrong shattered like glass. What she didn't know was that someone had been watching her every move, using her desperation as a weapon and her brother as bait. The moment she chose to save Luca's life instead of completing her mission, Elena sealed both their fates, because in this game of loyalty and betrayal, love might be the most dangerous choice of all. One kiss would change everything, but would it be enough to keep them both alive when the real enemy reveals himself? Subscribe and tell me where you're watching from, because this story is about to prove that sometimes the most dangerous person to fall in love with is the one you're supposed to destroy. The rain hammered against the window of Elena's small apartment like bullets against glass. She sat at her kitchen table, staring at the acceptance letter from the police academy that had changed everything 5 years ago. Now, at 29, she wondered if any of it had been worth it. "Elena?" Miguel's weak voice called from the bedroom. She folded the letter and tucked it away. Her 7-year-old brother needed her, and that was all that mattered. Elena walked to his room where he lay curled under a mountain of blankets, his face pale against the pillow. "How are you feeling, buddy?" She sat on the edge of his bed and brushed his dark hair from his forehead. "My chest hurts again," Miguel whispered. The chronic condition that attacked his lungs had been getting worse. The doctor said he needed surgery, but Elena's insurance barely covered the basics. "I know, sweetheart. We're going to get you better, okay?" She forced a smile. "I promise." Miguel nodded and closed his eyes. Elena waited until his breathing evened out, then walked to her closet. Hidden behind her work clothes was a small safe. Inside lay her service weapon and her next assignment file. The photo of Luca Moretti stared back at her. Dark eyes, sharp jawline, expensive suit. The man who controlled half the city's underground operations. The man she needed to get close to. Elena picked up the gun and felt its familiar weight. Tomorrow night she would become someone else entirely. She would walk into his world and pretend to belong there. All for Miguel. All for the surgery money she desperately needed. She had no choice. The music in Club Velvet was so loud, Elena could feel it in her chest. She adjusted the black dress she'd borrowed and tried to look like she belonged behind the bar. 3 weeks of preparation had led to this moment. "Another whiskey?" a man in an expensive suit demanded. Elena poured the drink and scanned the room. She'd memorized every face in Luca Moretti's organization, but seeing them in person was different. These men looked dangerous in a way that made her police training feel inadequate. "You're new." The voice came from directly in front of her. Elena looked up into the suspicious eyes of Nico Ricci, Luca's right-hand man. Everything about him screamed caution. "Started last week," Elena said, keeping her voice steady. "Funny, I don't remember anyone telling me about hiring new staff." Elena's heart pounded, but she shrugged. Maybe they forgot to mention it. Nico studied her face like he was memorizing every detail. "Maybe." Before Elena could respond, the crowd near the VIP section shifted. The conversations quieted. Even in the dim lighting, she recognized him immediately. Luca Moretti moved through the club like he owned it. Which he did. People stepped aside without being asked. His presence filled the room in a way Elena hadn't expected. In his photos, he'd looked cold and calculating. In person, there was something else. Something that made her breath catch. He was tall, maybe 6'2", with broad shoulders that filled out his black suit perfectly. His dark hair was styled, but not overly neat, like he'd run his fingers through it. When he smiled at something one of his men said, Elena saw a flash of genuine warmth that contradicted everything in his police file. "Keep your eyes on your work," Nico said quietly. "Not on the boss." Elena forced herself to look away, but she could still feel Luca's presence across the room. She busied herself wiping down glasses and tried to listen to the conversations around her. Most of it was useless, complaints about money, women, and sports. But then she caught something that made her freeze. "The shipment comes in Thursday," someone said. "Pier 7, around midnight." Elena's pulse quickened. This was exactly the kind of information her handler needed. She memorized every detail while pretending to inventory bottles. The night dragged on. Elena's feet ached in her borrowed heels, and she'd counted the minutes until closing time. She was reaching for her purse when she heard footsteps behind her. "Leaving already?" Elena turned to find Luca Moretti standing 3 feet away. Up close, he was even more intimidating. His dark eyes seemed to see right through her carefully constructed cover story. "Long shift," Elena managed. "I don't think we've been introduced." He stepped closer, and Elena caught a hint of expensive cologne mixed with something uniquely him. Luca Moretti. "Sophia," Elena lied. "Sophia Martinez." Sophia. The way he said her fake name made something flutter in her stomach. "You're new here?" "Yes, sir." "Please, just Luca." His smile was disarming. "Sir makes me feel old." Elena found herself smiling back before she caught herself. This man was her target, not someone to flirt with. "Well, Sophia, I hope you're enjoying your time here." Luca's eyes never left her face. "If you need anything, just let Nico know." "Thank you." Luca nodded and walked away, but Elena could feel him watching her as she gathered her things. She forced herself to move normally, to not rush for the exit like every instinct screamed at her to do. Outside, the cool night air hit her like a slap. Elena walked 3 blocks before ducking into an alley and calling her handler. "I'm in," she said when Detective Captain Morrison answered. "They're planning something for Thursday night. Pier 7, midnight." "Good work, Vargas. Keep your head down and gather intel. We need enough evidence to bring down the entire operation." Elena hung up and leaned against the brick wall. 3 hours in that club, and she already felt like she was in over her head. Luca Moretti wasn't what she'd expected. The file said he was cold, ruthless, and calculating, but the man she'd just met seemed almost normal. She shook her head. It didn't matter what he seemed like. He was a criminal, and she was a cop. Miguel needed that surgery, and this was the only way to get the money. She couldn't let herself forget that. Elena spent the next week falling into a routine, days at the precinct, nights at Club Velvet. She fed information to Morrison while trying to avoid Nico's suspicious glances. The man watched her like a hawk, and Elena wondered how long her cover would last. Thursday night arrived with another thunderstorm. Elena worked the bar as usual, but her nerves were on edge. She knew what was happening at Pier 7, and she knew the police would be there to intercept it. "You seem nervous tonight," Nico observed, appearing at the bar like he always did. "Just tired," Elena said. "Maybe you should go home early." Before Elena could respond, Luca's phone rang. She watched his face change as he answered, his expression growing darker with each passing second. "What do you mean? They were waiting for us?" Luca's voice carried across the VIP section. "How did they know?" Elena's blood ran cold. The police raid had gone wrong somehow. Or maybe it had gone exactly as planned. Luca's eyes swept the room and landed on her. For a moment, Elena thought he might see right through her cover. But then he looked away, his attention returning to his phone call. "Find out how they knew," Lucas said. "Someone talked, and I want to know who." Elena forced herself to keep working, but her hands shook as she reached for bottles. She'd given Morrison the information about the shipment. If Luca figured out there was a leak in his organization, how long before he traced it back to her? "Sophia." Luca's voice made her jump. She turned to find him standing at the bar, his face unreadable. "Walk with me." It wasn't a request. Elena followed him through a door marked private and up a set of stairs to his office. The room was surprisingly tasteful: leather furniture, dark wood, and books lining one wall. It looked more like a lawyer's office than a criminal's headquarters. "Sit," Luca said, gesturing to a chair across from his desk. Elena sat, her mind racing. Did he know? Was this where her cover finally collapsed? Luca poured himself a drink and offered her one. Elena shook her head. "Bad night?" she asked, trying to sound casual. "You could say that." Luca studied her face. "Someone leaked information about a business meeting. Cost me a lot of money." "I'm sorry to hear that." "Are you?" Luca set down his glass and moved to the window. "Tell me, Sophia, what do you think of loyalty?" Elena's mouth went dry. "I think it's important." "So do I. In my line of work, loyalty is everything. Without it, people die." The threat was subtle, but unmistakable. Elena forced herself to meet his eyes. "I understand." "Do you?" Luca walked back to his desk. "Because in my experience, people who understand loyalty don't usually end up working in places like this." "Everyone has their reasons for being here," Elena said. "Yes, they do." Luca leaned back in his chair. "What are yours?" Elena had practiced this story 100 times. "I needed work. My brother is sick, and medical bills don't pay themselves." Something shifted in Luca's expression. The coldness faded slightly, replaced by what might have been sympathy. "How old is your brother?" 7. "That's hard, being responsible for someone so young." Elena nodded, surprised by the genuine concern in his voice. "What's wrong with him?" "Lung condition. He needs surgery, but insurance won't cover all of it." Elena didn't have to fake the worry in her voice. Every word was true, even if the context was a lie. Luca was quiet for a long moment. "Children shouldn't suffer for their parents' choices," he said finally. "He's not suffering because of choices. He's suffering because life isn't fair." "Life is rarely fair," Luca agreed. "But sometimes people who care about children can make things better." Elena studied his face, wondering what he meant. But before she could ask, someone knocked on the door. "Boss?" Nico's voice came through the wood. "We need to go." Luca stood. "We'll continue this conversation another time, Sophia." Elena nodded and headed for the door, but Luca's voice stopped her. "Sophia?" She turned back. "Be careful who you trust. In my world, the wrong choice can get people hurt." Elena left his office with her heart pounding. She couldn't tell if Luca suspected her or if he was genuinely concerned about her safety. Either way, she was walking a tightrope, and one wrong step would send her plummeting. The anonymous tip came in on Friday morning. Elena's handler called her at dawn, his voice tight with excitement. "We got a location on Moretti," Morrison said. "Anonymous tip says he'll be at the old warehouse district tonight. Pier 12, 9 p.m. Elena's stomach dropped. "Are you sure the tip is legitimate?" "Seems solid. We're moving on it." "Captain, I think..." "You..." "Think what, Vargas? You're getting too close to this guy?" Elena closed her eyes. "No, sir. I just think we should be careful. Luca's not stupid." "Neither are we. You just keep doing your job and let us handle the rest." The line went dead. Elena stared at her phone, a bad feeling growing in her chest. Something about this felt wrong. She'd been feeding Morrison information for weeks, and Luca had never walked into an obvious trap. Why would he start now? That evening, Elena arrived at Club Velvet early. She needed to see if Luca was really planning to be at Pier 12. If he wasn't, then the anonymous tip was fake. And if it was fake, that meant someone was setting up the police. "You're early tonight," Nico observed. "Couldn't sleep," Elena said. She worked the bar and listened to conversations, but nobody mentioned Pier 12. As the night wore on, Elena's anxiety grew. Something was definitely wrong. At 8:30, Luca emerged from his office with several of his men. Elena watched them head for the exit, her heart racing. Were they really going to Pier 12, or was this all part of some larger plan? Elena waited 10 minutes, then told the other bartender she wasn't feeling well. She grabbed her purse and headed for her car, her police training taking over. She had to know what was happening. The warehouse district was dark and empty when Elena arrived. She parked several blocks away and approached on foot, staying in the shadows. Her gun was tucked into her waistband, hidden under her jacket. Pier 12 was silent. Too silent. Elena crept closer, using abandoned containers for cover. She could see the water beyond the pier, black and choppy under the cloudy sky. Then she heard voices, 2 men talking quietly near the edge of the pier. Elena moved closer, trying to make out their words. "Should be here soon," one man said. "And then we finish this," replied another voice Elena recognized. Anton Savino, Luca's biggest rival. Elena's blood ran cold. This wasn't a meeting. It was an ambush. Anton's men were here waiting for someone, and Elena had a terrible feeling she knew who. She pulled out her phone to call Morrison, but before she could dial, headlights swept across the pier. A black sedan pulled up, and Elena watched in horror as Luca Moretti got out. He was walking into a trap, and the police were on their way. In less than 30 minutes, Pier 12 would be swarming with cops, and Luca would be caught in the crossfire. Elena made a decision that went against everything in her training. She pulled out her gun and stepped from the shadows. "Luca!" she shouted. "It's a trap!" Everything happened at once. Anton's men spun toward her voice, guns appearing in their hands. Luca dove behind his car as bullets started flying. Elena found herself running toward the gunfire instead of away from it, her police training and something deeper driving her forward. She reached Luca just as he was returning fire. He looked shocked to see her. "What the hell are you doing here?" he demanded. "Saving your life?" Elena shot back, literally. They fought side by side, using his car for cover. Elena's police training kicked in, and she moved with a precision that clearly surprised Luca. When the shooting stopped, 3 of Anton's men were down, and the rest had disappeared into the maze of containers. Luca stared at Elena in the sudden silence. "Who are you?" Before Elena could answer, they heard sirens in the distance. The police were coming, just like Morrison had planned. "We have to go," Elena said. "Not until you tell me who you really are." Elena looked into his dark eyes and made another split-second decision. "I'm a cop." Luca's face went hard. "You're what?" "Detective Elena Vargas. I'm undercover." For a moment, Elena thought Luca might shoot her himself. His hand moved toward his gun, and she tensed. "You've been watching me," he said. "Yes." "Reporting on me?" "Yes." The sirens were getting closer. Elena could see flashing lights in the distance. "Why did you warn me?" Luca asked. Elena met his eyes. "Because someone set you up tonight, and I don't think it was the police." Luca studied her face for a long moment. Then, to Elena's amazement, he grabbed her hand. "Come on," he said. "We need to get out of here." They ran together toward the maze of shipping containers, leaving the pier and the approaching sirens behind. Elena's mind raced as they moved. She'd just saved the life of the man she was supposed to arrest. She'd blown her cover and probably destroyed her career. But as Luca's hand squeezed hers, guiding her through the darkness, Elena realized she didn't regret it. Not yet, anyway. Elena's lungs burned as she and Luca ran through the maze of shipping containers. Behind them, the police sirens grew louder, and she could hear officers shouting orders. Her career was over. Everything she'd worked for, gone in one moment of choice. "This way," Luca whispered, pulling her between two rust-covered containers. They pressed against the cold metal, breathing hard. Elena could feel Luca's eyes on her in the darkness, but she couldn't bring herself to look at him. What had she done? "My car is 3 blocks north," he said quietly. "Can you make it that far?" Elena nodded. They moved carefully through the shadows, avoiding the sweeping flashlight beams. When they finally reached Luca's backup car, a simple gray sedan instead of his usual black luxury vehicle, Elena's hands were shaking. They drove in silence for 10 minutes before Luca pulled into an empty parking garage. He turned off the engine and stared straight ahead. "Start talking," he said. "What do you want to know?" "Everything. How long have you been watching me? What do the police know? Why did you save my life?" Elena took a deep breath. "I've been undercover for 3 weeks. The police know about your business operations, but not enough to make arrests stick. And I saved your life because—" She paused, struggling to find the right words. "Because someone was using me to set you up." "Someone?" "I think Anton Savino has a source inside the police department. He fed my captain false information to get you to that pier." Luca was quiet for a long moment. "Your captain?" "Detective Captain Morrison." "And you really are a cop?" "Detective Elena Vargas, 5 years on the force." Luca laughed, but there was no humor in it. "A cop. I should have known." "Why?" "The way you moved tonight, the way you handled that gun. I thought you might be military, but cop makes more sense." Elena finally looked at him. In the dim light from the parking garage, his face was unreadable. "Are you going to kill me? Are you going to arrest me?" "I don't know." "Then I don't know either." They sat in the silence that followed, both lost in their own thoughts. Elena's phone buzzed with a text message from Morrison. "Where are you? Report in immediately." She showed the message to Luca. "I have to answer him eventually." "What will you tell him?" "I don't know that either." Luca studied her face. "You said your brother is sick." That part was true. All of it was true, except my name. "How sick?" Elena's throat tightened. "He needs surgery, lung surgery. The doctors say if he doesn't get it soon—" She couldn't finish the sentence. "That's why you took this assignment." "The department promised me overtime pay and a bonus if the operation was successful. It would have covered Miguel's surgery." Luca was quiet again. Then he said something that surprised her. "I lost my wife 3 years ago." Elena looked at him sharply. "Lost her how?" "Murdered, shot down in the street like an animal." His voice was flat, emotionless. "I never found out who did it." "I'm sorry. She was pregnant." The words came out barely above a whisper. "We were going to have a family." Elena felt her heart break a little. In all her research on Luca Moretti, she'd read about his wife's death, but the files had never mentioned a pregnancy. "We both know what it's like to lose someone," Luca said, "to be responsible for someone who can't protect themselves." "Yes." "Anton Savino killed my wife." Elena's breath caught. "You know that for certain?" I know it in my bones. But knowing and proving are different things. Elena understood. She'd felt the same way about the drug dealer who'd put Miguel in the hospital 2 years ago. Sometimes the system failed and justice felt impossible. If Anton has someone inside your police department, Luca continued, then tonight wasn't just about killing me. It was about framing me for something or making sure I disappeared permanently. Elena's phone buzzed again. Morrison, demanding an immediate response. I need to call him back, she said. What will you say? Elena looked at Luca's face, at the genuine concern she saw there, and made a decision that would change everything. I'll tell him I lost you in the containers, that the tip was bad. You'd lied to your captain, for me, for my brother, for the truth. Elena met his eyes, and maybe for you. Luca reached over and touched her hand gently. Elena. Hearing her real name in his voice did something to her chest, made it hard to breathe. What happens now? She asked. Now we figure out how to stop Anton before he kills us both. The safe house was a small apartment above a bakery in Little Italy. Luca led Elena up a narrow staircase, past the smell of fresh bread and coffee. She was exhausted, running on adrenaline and fear. It's not much, Luca said, unlocking the door, but it's safe. The apartment was simple but clean. A small living room, tiny kitchen, 1 bedroom. Elena noticed there were no personal items, no photos or books. It felt like a place designed for hiding. You can take the bedroom, Luca said. I'll sleep on the couch. You don't have to. Yes, I do. He met her eyes. Despite everything, you're still a guest. Elena wanted to argue, but she was too tired. She'd been lying to everyone for weeks, and the weight of it was finally hitting her. Luca? He turned from where he was checking the window locks. Why aren't you angry? I've been spying on you, reporting your activities to the police. Most people would want revenge. Luca considered the question. Most people don't risk their lives to save someone who could destroy their career. I still might arrest you. I know. He almost smiled. That's what makes this interesting. Elena's phone rang. Morrison's name flashed on the screen. Answer it, Luca said, but be careful. Elena took a deep breath and answered. Captain? Vargas, where the hell have you been? We've been trying to reach you for hours. I'm sorry, sir. After the shooting at the pier, I got separated from everyone. I've been trying to find my way back. What shooting? What are you talking about? Elena's blood ran cold. The operation at Pier 12. The anonymous tip about Moretti. Vargas, what anonymous tip? We didn't have any operation tonight. Elena looked at Luca, who was watching her face intently. Captain, you called me this morning. You said we had a location on Moretti, Pier 12 at 9 p.m. I never called you. I've been in meetings all day. Are you saying someone impersonated me? Elena's mind raced. If Morrison hadn't called her, then who had? And how had they known about her undercover assignment? Captain, I think someone is using my cover to... The line went dead. Elena stared at her phone, then looked at Luca. That wasn't your captain who called you this morning, he said. No. Someone wanted me to think the police were planning a raid. They wanted me at that pier. The question is why? Elena paced to the window, her mind working through the possibilities. If Anton has someone inside the police department, they could have accessed my file. They would know I'm undercover. So they set up a fake raid, knowing you'd either tip me off or get caught in the crossfire. Either way, I'd be compromised. My cover blown, my usefulness ended. Luca nodded grimly. And if you tipped me off, it would look like I had a police source. Even more reason for the real police to come after me. Elena felt sick. She'd been played, manipulated by someone who understood exactly how she would react. I need to warn Morrison. If Anton has someone inside—" "No." Luca's voice was firm. "Right now, we don't know who to trust. Calling anyone could put you in more danger. I can't just disappear. My brother, Miguel, is safe for now. Anton doesn't know about him yet." "Yet?" Luca's expression was grim. "If Anton's been watching you, he'll figure out your vulnerabilities eventually. We need to stop him before that happens." Elena sank into a chair, the full weight of her situation finally hitting her. She was cut off from the police, hiding with a man she was supposed to arrest, and her little brother was potentially in danger. "I've ruined everything," she whispered. "No." Luca sat across from her. "You saved both our lives tonight. That counts for something." "My career is over." "Maybe, but careers can be rebuilt. Lives can't." Elena looked up at him. "Why are you being so understanding about this?" Luca was quiet for a moment. "Because 3 weeks ago, you could have arrested me in that parking garage. You had your gun drawn. You had the element of surprise. But you hesitated." "I was following procedure?" "No, you weren't. You hesitated because you saw something in me that didn't match what you expected." Elena remembered that moment, remembered the way Luca had looked at her with curiosity instead of fear. "What did I see?" "The same thing I saw in you tonight. Someone doing what they think is right, even when it's complicated." Elena felt tears prick her eyes. "I don't know what's right anymore." "Then we figure it out together." The simple words hit Elena harder than any declaration of love could have. Together. When was the last time anyone had offered to share her burdens? "I should call my brother," she said. "Let him know I'm okay." "Is he somewhere safe?" "He's with my neighbor, Mrs. Chen. She watches him when I work nights." Luca handed her his phone. "Use this. Your phone might be traced." Elena dialed Mrs. Chen's number, her heart pounding. What if something had already happened? "Hello?" Mrs. Chen's familiar voice was a relief. "Mrs. Chen, it's Elena. How is Miguel?" "He's fine, dear. Sleeping peacefully. He had a good day today. Ate all his dinner." "Good. Listen, I might be working late for the next few days. Is it okay if he stays with you?" "Of course. You know I love having him here. Are you all right?" "You sound stressed." Elena looked at Luca, who nodded encouragingly. "I'm fine. Just work stuff. I'll check in tomorrow." "Take care of yourself, Elena." Elena hung up and handed the phone back to Luca. "He's safe." "Good. Now we need to make a plan." "What kind of plan?" "Anton tried to have us both killed. Tonight. He's not going to stop there." Luca's jaw tightened. "If we're going to survive this, we need to work together." "You want to partner with a cop?" "I want to partner with someone who cares about protecting innocent people." Elena studied his face. "And what about after? When Anton's gone?" "I don't know, but I'd rather worry about after than not live to see it." Elena nodded slowly. He was right. Whatever else happened between them, they needed each other to survive. "So, what do we do first?" Luca smiled, and for the first time since she'd met him, it reached his eyes. "First, we get some sleep. Tomorrow we start hunting." Elena woke to the smell of coffee and something that might have been pancakes. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then the events of the previous night came flooding back, and she sat up with a start. "It's okay." Luca's voice came from the kitchen. "You're safe." Elena found him standing at the stove, still wearing yesterday's clothes, but somehow managing to look put together. On the counter were 2 cups of coffee and a plate of what were definitely pancakes. "You cook?" she asked. "I cook. Maria, my wife. She tried to teach me." His voice caught slightly on her name. "I wasn't very good at it then." "And now?" "Now I have more motivation to learn." Elena accepted the coffee gratefully. It was strong and perfect. What kind of motivation? Luca met her eyes. The kind that comes from having someone to take care of. The words hung between them, loaded with meaning Elena wasn't ready to examine. Instead, she focused on the pancakes, which were surprisingly good. "We need to talk about Anton," she said. "We do, but first tell me about Miguel." The change of subject surprised her. "What about him? What's he like, besides being sick?" Elena smiled despite everything. "He's amazing. Tough. He never complains even when he's in pain. He loves books, especially adventure stories. He wants to be a detective when he grows up. Like his sister." "Yeah." Elena's throat tightened. "He doesn't remember our parents. They died when he was 2. I'm the only family he has. That's a lot of responsibility for someone your age." "I don't mind. He's worth it." Luca nodded thoughtfully. Family is worth everything. They ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes. Elena couldn't remember the last time someone had made her breakfast. It felt strangely intimate, sharing this quiet morning routine with a man who should have been her enemy. "Tell me about Anton," she said finally. Luca's expression hardened. "Anton Savino is everything people think I am. Ruthless, violent, completely without conscience. He's been trying to take over my territory for 2 years. Since your wife died? He saw her death as a sign of weakness. He was wrong." Elena heard the steel in Luca's voice and understood that Anton had made a fatal miscalculation. "How do we stop him?" "We find his source in the police department. Without inside information, Anton loses his advantage. And then? Then we make sure he can never hurt anyone again." Elena knew what that meant. In Luca's world, there was only one way to permanently stop someone like Anton. "I can't be part of murder, Luca." "I'm not asking you to be. But you're telling me that's how this ends." Luca set down his coffee cup. "Elena, men like Anton don't go to prison. They have too much money, too many connections. The system you believe in, it doesn't work for people like him. So we become judge, jury, and executioner? We protect the people who can't protect themselves." Elena stared at him, seeing the fundamental difference between them. She believed in law and order, in justice through the system. He believed in justice by any means necessary. "I can't cross that line," she said softly. "I know, and I wouldn't ask you to. But you will, if I have to." Elena nodded slowly. She understood his position, even if she couldn't agree with it. "What about your source in the police department?" "We start there, see what we can find out." Elena's phone, Luca's phone, buzzed with a text message. Elena looked at the number and frowned. "I don't recognize this number." She opened the message and felt the blood drain from her face. "What is it?" Luca asked. Elena showed him the screen. The message was simple and terrifying. "I have something you care about. Pier 7, midnight. Come alone, or the boy pays." Attached was a photo of Miguel, taken through Mrs. Chen's window as he slept. Elena's hand shook as she stared at the image of her brother, so vulnerable and unaware of the danger surrounding him. "They have him," she whispered. "No." Luca's voice was firm. "They have a photo of him. There's a difference." "You don't understand. Elena, look at me." She raised her eyes to his face. "I understand perfectly. Someone is threatening the most important person in your life, but running into an obvious trap won't save him. Then what will? We save him together, but we do it smart." Elena wanted to argue, wanted to run straight to Pier 7 and trade herself for Miguel's safety, but she could see the logic in Luca's words. "What do you suggest?" "We call Mrs. Chen. Make sure Miguel is really okay. Then we plan. Elena dialed with shaking fingers. Mrs. Chen answered on the second ring. Hello? Mrs. Chen, it's Elena. Is Miguel still with you? Yes, dear. He's right here eating breakfast. Would you like to talk to him? Relief flooded through Elena. Yes, please. Elena? Miguel's small voice was the most beautiful sound she'd ever heard. Hey, buddy. How are you feeling? Okay. Mrs. Chen made me eggs. Are you coming home soon? Elena looked at Luca, who nodded encouragingly. I'm going to be working for a couple of more days, but I'll see you soon, okay? I need you to stay with Mrs. Chen and do exactly what she says. Okay, I love you, Elena. I love you too, Miguel. So much. Elena hung up and looked at Luca. He's safe. For now. The photo could be old or taken without him knowing. Someone's trying to panic you into making a mistake. It's working. Luca reached across the table and took her hand. Elena, I promise you, nothing will happen to Miguel. I'll die before I let anyone hurt him. The fierce protectiveness in his voice made Elena's breath catch. You don't even know him. I know he's important to you. That makes him important to me. Elena stared at their joined hands, at the way Luca's fingers curved protectively around hers. When had this stopped being about her undercover assignment? When had it become about something else entirely? We need a plan, she said. Yes, but first, we need to understand what we're really fighting for. Miguel's safety. More than that. Luca's dark eyes were serious. We're fighting for the right to choose our own future, together or apart, but free from Anton's threats. Elena felt something shift inside her chest, some wall she'd built around her heart beginning to crack. Together? She asked softly. If you want that. Elena looked at this man who should have been her enemy. This criminal who made her breakfast and promised to protect her brother. This dangerous, complicated person who somehow made her feel safer than she had in years. I think I might, she whispered. Luca smiled, and Elena felt her world tilt on its axis. Then let's go save everyone we care about. The plan was simple in theory, terrifying in practice. Elena would go to Pier 7 as requested, but she wouldn't go alone. Luca would position himself and his most trusted men around the area, ready to move if things went wrong. The goal wasn't to start a war, it was to end one. You don't have to do this, Luca said for the third time as they sat in his car 2 blocks from the pier. Yes, I do. Elena checked her weapon one more time. If I don't show up, Anton will assume I'm hiding behind you. He'll escalate. And if you do show up, he might just kill you. Elena met his eyes in the rearview mirror. Then you better make sure that doesn't happen. They'd spent the day planning, calling in favors, and trying to identify Anton's police source. Luca had contacts everywhere, people who owed him money, people he'd helped, people who respected his particular brand of honor. Elena was beginning to understand that his reputation was more complicated than her police files suggested. Nico's in position on the north side, Luca said, touching his earpiece. Marco and Tony have the south covered. And you? I'll be close enough to get to you in 30 seconds. That might be 30 seconds too long. Luca turned to face her fully. Elena, I need you to understand something. If Anton hurts you, there won't be anything left of him to arrest. Do you understand what I'm telling you? Elena understood perfectly. She was seeing the man Luca really was. Not just the criminal the police thought they knew, but someone who protected the people he cared about with absolute ruthlessness. I understand, she said, but I need you to understand something too. I'm not helpless. I've been taking care of myself and Miguel for 7 years. I can handle Anton. I know you can. That's not what this is about. Then what is it about? Luca reached over and touched her face gently. It's about the fact that I'm falling in love with you, and I can't lose anyone else. The words hit Elena like a physical blow. She stared at him, her heart racing. Luca! I know it's complicated. I know we're on opposite sides of the law, but what happened between us last night? What's happening right now? It's real. Elena felt tears prick her eyes. We barely know each other. I know you risk your life for strangers. I know you'd do anything to protect your brother. I know you make terrible coffee, but somehow make everything feel less empty. Luca's thumb traced her cheekbone. And I know that whatever happens tonight, I don't want to go back to the way things were before I met you. Elena closed her eyes, overwhelmed by the intensity of his words and the truth she heard in them. She was falling for him, too, had been since that first night when he'd looked at her like she was a puzzle worth solving instead of a threat to eliminate. After tonight, she whispered, if we both survive this, when we survive this, we figure out how to make this work. Luca smiled. Is that a yes? It's a maybe, which is more than I should be giving you. I'll take maybe. Elena's radio crackled to life. Elena, it's time. She took a deep breath and checked her weapon one final time. Remember, no matter what happens, Miguel's safety comes first. I remember. Elena started to get out of the car, but Luca caught her hand. Elena? She turned back. Come home to me. The words were simple, but they carried the weight of everything unsaid between them. Elena squeezed his hand once and stepped into the night. Pier 7 was shrouded in fog rolling off the water. Elena walked slowly, her footsteps echoing on the wet wooden planks. She could feel eyes watching her from the shadows, though she couldn't tell if they belonged to Luca's men or Anton's. Detective Vargas? Anton Savino stepped out of the darkness like something from a nightmare. He was smaller than Elena had expected, but there was something in his pale eyes that made her skin crawl. This was a man who enjoyed causing pain. Anton. So formal. After all, we've been working together for weeks. Elena kept her expression neutral. I don't know what you mean. Of course you do. Every piece of information you fed to your captain came straight to me. Every raid you planned, I knew about in advance. Elena's blood ran cold. Morrison. Captain Morrison has been very helpful. Amazing what gambling debts can motivate a man to do. So that was Anton's source. Elena filed the information away, hoping she'd live long enough to use it. What do you want? She asked. Originally, I wanted you to lead the police to Luca so I could kill him and blame it on a police shooting. Clean, simple, problem solved. But Anton smiled, and Elena saw the madness lurking behind his eyes. But you had to go and save his life. Suddenly, my useful little spy became a problem. So you're here to eliminate the problem. I'm here to make you an offer. Elena waited. You're going to call Luca. Tell him you're in trouble, that you need him to come alone. When he does, my men will take care of him permanently. In exchange, your brother gets to live. And if I refuse? Anton pulled out his phone and showed her a video. Elena's heart stopped. It was Miguel, tied to a chair in what looked like a warehouse. He was awake, scared, calling for her. Where is he? Elena's voice was deadly quiet. Somewhere safe, for now, but if you don't cooperate, well, Anton shrugged. 7-year-olds are so fragile. Elena felt rage flood through her system, white-hot and all-consuming. She wanted to kill Anton with her bare hands, but she forced herself to think. This was exactly what he wanted, for her emotions to override her training. You recorded this when? She asked. Does it matter? It matters to me. Anton studied her face. An hour ago, right after I took him from that old Chinese woman's apartment. Elena's heart broke. Mrs. Chen was probably hurt, or worse, and Miguel was terrified and alone. But she could hear something in Anton's voice that gave her hope. He was lying. The video could be from anywhere, any time. It was meant to break her down, make her desperate. Prove he's alive, Elena said. Call him now. I don't think you're in a position to make demands. Then I guess you don't get Luca. Elena started to turn away, gambling everything on her rate of the situation. Anton grabbed her arm. Where do you think you're going? To call Luca and tell him you're holding my brother hostage. He'll come, but not the way you want. He'll bring every man he has, and this will turn into a war that brings the real police down on all of us. Anton's grip tightened. You're bluffing. Am I? You said it yourself. I've been working with Luca for weeks. You think I don't know how he operates? How he responds to threats against people he cares about? Elena could see doubt creeping into Anton's eyes. She pressed her advantage. Or we can do this the smart way. You prove Miguel is safe, and I'll help you get Luca. But if you've hurt my brother, I promise you, Luca will be the least of your problems. Anton released her arm and stepped back. There was something new in his expression now, uncertainty. You're not what I expected, he said. Most people underestimate me. It's usually the last mistake they make. Elena heard the confidence in her own voice and realized it wasn't an act. She'd spent so many years being afraid for Miguel, afraid of making the wrong choice, afraid of not being strong enough. But standing here facing down a killer, she felt something she'd never experienced before. Absolute certainty. She was done being afraid. Make the call, she said. Prove my brother is okay, or this conversation is over. Anton stared at her for a long moment, then pulled out his phone. He dialed a number and waited. Put the kid on, he said when someone answered. Elena heard rustling, then Miguel's small voice. Hello? Miguel, it's Elena. Are you okay? Elena, I want to come home. These men are scary. I know, baby. I'm going to come get you, okay? Are you hurt? No, but Mrs. Chen. The phone was yanked away before Miguel could finish. Elena's heart was pounding, but she'd heard what she needed to hear. Miguel was alive and relatively unharmed. Satisfied? Anton asked. Where is he? That depends on your cooperation. Elena nodded slowly. What do you want me to do? Call Luca, tell him you need help, that something's gone wrong. Get him here alone. Elena pulled out her phone, but instead of calling Luca, she sent a quick text message. Pier 7. Anton has M need backup. Then she dialed Luca's number, making sure Anton could hear every word. Elena, are you okay? No. Elena let real fear creep into her voice. Something's wrong. I need you to come to Pier 7, alone. I'm on my way. Elena hung up and looked at Anton. He'll be here in 10 minutes. Good. Now we wait. They stood in tense silence, Elena calculating distances and angles while Anton kept his gun trained on her. She could see his men positioned around the pier, at least 6 of them that she could identify. You know, Anton said conversationally, I really am sorry about your brother. He seems like a nice kid. Don't. It's just business, you understand? Nothing personal. Elena felt her control slipping. If you hurt him, you'll what? You're outnumbered and outgunned. Face it, detective. You've lost. Elena was about to respond when she heard footsteps on the pier. Luca appeared out of the fog, walking slowly with his hands visible. Anton, he said calmly. I should have known. Hello, Luca. Thank you for coming. Let Elena go. Your fight is with me." Anton laughed. "How noble, but I'm afraid it doesn't work that way." Elena saw Luca's eyes flick to her briefly, and she caught the almost imperceptible nod he gave her. He'd gotten her message. His men were in position. "What do you want?" Luca asked. "What I've always wanted. Your territory, your business, your life." "You could have just asked." "Where's the fun in that?" Elena saw Luca tense slightly, and she knew he was about to move. She had to time this perfectly. "Anton," she said, "before you kill us both, can I ask you something?" "What? Did you really think this would work?" Anton frowned. "What are you talking about?" "This whole elaborate plan. Did you really think Luca would come alone? That I wouldn't figure out you were lying about my brother?" "What are you—" Elena smiled. "Miguel is safe at home." "Has been all night. That video you showed me? You filmed it weeks ago, didn't you? When you were first planning this." Anton's face went white. "You're lying." "Am I? Call your men who are supposed to be watching him. See what they say." Elena was gambling everything on a bluff, but she could see doubt creeping into Anton's eyes. The truth was, she didn't know where Miguel was. But she was betting that Anton's paranoia and need to control every detail had led him to make this overly complicated. "Besides," Elena continued, "did you really think Luca would walk into a trap without backup?" That's when the pier exploded into chaos. Luca's men emerged from the shadows like ghosts moving with military precision. Gunfire erupted from multiple directions as Anton's crew found themselves surrounded. Elena dove for cover behind a shipping container as bullets whistled overhead. She could see Luca moving toward her, using the confusion to close the distance between them. "Elena!" he shouted over the gunfire. "Are you hit?" "No, where's Anton?" Elena looked around frantically and spotted Anton running toward the end of the pier. Without thinking, she took off after him. "Elena, no!" But Elena was already running, her police training taking over. Anton had threatened Miguel, had tried to use her brother as a weapon against her. That crossed every line she had. She caught up with Anton at the end of the pier. He spun around, gun raised, but Elena was faster. Years of training and desperation gave her an edge she hadn't known she possessed. They fought hand to hand on the narrow pier, both weapons lost in the struggle. Anton was stronger, but Elena was quicker and more desperate. When he lunged for her throat, she sidestepped and used his momentum against him. Anton stumbled toward the edge of the pier, his arms windmilling as he tried to regain his balance. For a moment, Elena could have grabbed him, could have pulled him back to safety. Instead, she stepped back and watched him fall into the dark water below. Elena stood at the edge of the pier, breathing hard, and realized she felt no guilt. Some people didn't deserve saving. "Elena!" She turned to find Luca running toward her, his face frantic with worry. "Are you okay? Are you hurt?" Elena nodded, suddenly exhausted. "I'm fine. It's over." Luca pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. "When I saw you run after him, I thought, I'm okay. We're okay." They stood there in the fog, holding each other as the sounds of the fight died down around them. Elena could hear sirens in the distance, real police this time, not Anton's fake setup. "What happens now?" Elena asked. "Now we go home," Luca said. "To Miguel." Elena pulled back to look at his face. "Home? If you want that." Elena thought about everything that had happened, everything that had changed between them. 3 days ago, Luca Moretti had been her target. Now he was something else entirely. "What about your business? Your life here?" "My business will survive. It always has. But I can't survive losing you." Elena felt tears prick her eyes. "Luca!" I know it's complicated. I know there are things we need to figure out. But I love you, Elena. And I love that little boy who depends on you. If you'll let me, I want to be part of that family." Elena looked into his dark eyes and saw her future there. Not the future she'd planned, but maybe the one she'd been meant for all along. "Yes," she whispered. Luca's smile was like sunrise after the longest night. "Yes. Yes to all of it. Yes to you, yes to us. Yes to figuring out how to make this work." Luca kissed her then, deep and desperate and full of promises. Elena kissed him back, tasting hope and possibility and the beginning of something beautiful. When they finally broke apart, Elena could see the police boats approaching the pier. "We should go," she said. "Together?" "Together." As they walked away from the pier hand in hand, Elena felt something she hadn't experienced in years, complete and utter certainty that she was exactly where she belonged. 6 months later, Elena woke up to the sound of laughter coming from the kitchen. She lay in bed for a moment, listening to Miguel's giggles mixed with Luca's deeper chuckle, and marveled at how completely her life had changed. The fallout from that night at the pier had been complicated but manageable. Captain Morrison had been arrested for corruption, and Elena had been cleared of any wrongdoing after a thorough internal investigation. The department had even offered her a promotion, but Elena had turned it down. She had other plans now. "Elena," Miguel called from the kitchen, "Luca's making pancakes that look like dinosaurs." Elena smiled and pulled on her robe. The surgery had been a complete success. Luca had quietly paid for the best doctors, the best hospital, everything Miguel needed. Her brother was healthier than he'd been in years, his energy boundless and his smile constant. She found them in the kitchen of their new home, a modest house in a quiet neighborhood where Miguel could ride his bike and play in the yard. Luca was standing at the stove, wearing an apron that said, "Kiss the cook," Miguel's idea, carefully pouring batter into dinosaur-shaped molds. "Good morning, beautiful," Luca said, kissing her cheek as she passed. "Morning. How long have you two been up?" "Forever," Miguel said dramatically. "Luca said we had to let you sleep because you worked late last night." Elena's new job as a victim's advocate for domestic violence survivors often required odd hours, but it was the most fulfilling work she'd ever done. She helped people escape dangerous situations, connected them with resources, and gave them hope for better futures. It felt like she was finally using her skills for exactly what they were meant for. "Did you finish your book report?" Elena asked Miguel, ruffling his hair. "Yep, Luca helped me with the big words." Elena looked at Luca questioningly. His transformation over the past 6 months had been remarkable. He'd gradually stepped back from his previous business interests, focusing instead on legitimate investments and community development. It wasn't always easy. Old habits and old enemies didn't disappear overnight, but he was building something new. "What book?" she asked. "Island of the Blue Dolphins," Miguel said proudly. "It's about a girl who has to survive all by herself, but she's really brave." "Sounds familiar," Lucas said, meeting Elena's eyes with a smile. After breakfast, Elena walked Miguel to the bus stop. It was their daily routine, one of the small, normal things that meant everything to her. As the yellow bus pulled away with Miguel waving from the window, Elena felt Luca's arms wrap around her from behind. "Happy?" he asked, resting his chin on her shoulder. "Terrified," Elena admitted. "But happy. Why terrified?" Elena leaned back against his chest. "Because I never thought I could have this. A family, a home, someone who loves us both. It feels too good to be real." "It's real." Luca's arms tightened around her. "We built this together, and we're going to keep building it." Elena turned in his arms. "Even when things get complicated?" "Especially then." They walked back to the house, hand in hand. Elena still couldn't believe sometimes that this was her life, that the dangerous man she'd been sent to arrest had become the person she trusted most in the world. "I have something for you," Luca said as they reached their front door. "It's not my birthday." "It doesn't need to be." He led her to the living room where a small, wrapped box sat on the coffee table. Elena's heart started racing. "Luca, open it." Elena picked up the box with shaking hands. Inside was a simple gold ring with 3 small diamonds, not an engagement ring, but something else entirely. "It's a promise ring," Luca explained, "a promise that whatever happens, we face it together. You, me, and Miguel." Elena felt tears spill down her cheeks. "Luca, I know we're not ready for marriage yet. We're still figuring things out, still building trust. But I wanted you to have something that represents what we're working toward." Elena slipped the ring onto her right hand. It fit perfectly. "How did you know my size?" "I asked Miguel to trace your hand while you were sleeping." Elena laughed through her tears. "You corrupted my little brother into jewelry espionage?" "He was very enthusiastic about the mission." Elena kissed him then, pouring all her love and gratitude and hope into that simple gesture. When they broke apart, Luca rested his forehead against hers. "I love you," he said simply. "I love you too." They were interrupted by the doorbell. Elena wasn't expecting anyone, and she could see the tension immediately return to Luca's shoulders. Old habits died hard. "I'll get it," she said. Elena opened the door to find a young woman about her own age, holding the hand of a little girl who couldn't have been more than 5. "Are you Elena Vargas?" the woman asked nervously. "Yes." "My name is Sarah Martinez. I heard you help people in bad situations." Elena looked at the little girl, who was hiding behind her mother's legs, and immediately understood. The woman had a faded bruise on her jaw, carefully covered with makeup. The child was too thin, too quiet. "Come in," Elena said. "Let me get you some coffee." As Elena led Sarah and her daughter into the kitchen, she felt Luca's questioning look. She nodded slightly, and he disappeared upstairs, giving them privacy but staying close enough to help if needed. "Tell me what's happening," Elena said gently, setting a cup of coffee in front of Sarah and offering the little girl some juice. "My husband, he's been getting worse. Last night Sarah's voice broke. "He hurt Emma. Just a little, but I can't let it happen again." Elena felt the familiar fire in her chest, the one that had driven her to become a cop in the first place. "Do you have somewhere safe to go?" "No. He controls all the money, knows all my friends. I don't have anyone." "Yes, you do. You have me." Elena spent the next 2 hours making phone calls, arranging emergency housing, connecting Sarah with legal aid, and setting up counseling services for both mother and daughter. It was the same work she did at her job, but doing it from her own kitchen, with Luca quietly making lunch for everyone, felt different somehow. More personal. More like family. After Sarah and Emma left for the safe house Elena had arranged, she found Luca cleaning up the kitchen. "That was beautiful," he said. "What?" "Watching you work, watching you save people." Luca dried his hands and turned to face her. "You have a gift, Elena. You make people feel safe. So do you. Not the way you do. You make them feel like they deserve to be safe." Elena felt her heart swell. "We make a good team. The best." That afternoon, they picked Miguel up from school together. Elena watched Luca help her brother with his homework while she prepared dinner, and marveled at how seamlessly they'd become a family. Miguel adored Luca, and Luca had embraced his role as protector and guide with a tenderness that still surprised Elena sometimes. "Elena," Miguel said during dinner, Can I ask you something? Of course. Is Luca going to be my dad now? Elena nearly choked on her water. She looked at Luca, who was watching Miguel with an expression of pure love. What do you think about that? Elena asked carefully. Miguel considered the question seriously. I think it would be good. Luca makes you happy, and he makes really good dinosaur pancakes. Plus, he promised to teach me how to play chess. Elena felt tears prick her eyes. Would you like that? For Luca to be part of our family officially? He's already part of our family. I just want to make sure he's not going anywhere. Luca reached over and ruffled Miguel's hair. I'm not going anywhere, buddy. Ever. Promise? I promise. After Miguel went to bed, Elena and Luca sat on their back porch watching the stars come out. Elena wore her new ring, and every time she caught the light reflecting off it, she felt a little thrill of happiness. He's right, you know, Luca said. About what? About us already being a family. The ring, the promises, they're just making official what's already true. Elena curled up against his side. So what happens now? Now we keep building. We help more people like Sarah and Emma. We watch Miguel grow up healthy and happy. We figure out how to blend your world and mine into something better than either of us had alone. And us? We love each other every day through whatever comes. That's the promise.